Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, November 12th, 2015. This time we're going to take up some housekeeping items. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and ATT UVerse Channel 99, and will rebroadcast every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. and Saturdays from 12:30 p.m. and is available by video on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off those cell phones. As you all came in tonight, November 12th, the consultant for the Henry County Cities Joint Comprehensive Transportation Plan, CTP, is having an open house in the lobby of the Henry County Administration Building, and we encourage everyone, including all the zoning board members, to stop by the tables and fill out a survey regarding the transportation planning in Henry County. So if you are listening viewers tonight, you might have time to come up here and take a look at that. If you wish to speak tonight, we'd like for you to fill out a public hearing speaker card, and I'm assuming those are out front or on the edge here. And we're going to allot 10 minutes for those to speak in favor of a case, and 10 minutes for those to speak in opposition of a case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share in the 10-minute slot in opposition or in favor for. Also, you need to address the board when you come up and not the audience. So if you turn your back to us, we're going to assume that you are finished speaking with us, and we're going to ask you to sit down. And it is just a comment period, so there's no interaction with the board on that in that situation. Now, the applicants will also have 10 minutes, and I will remind you when you come up to address the board that you will have 10 minutes for your presentation also. Okay, and if there's no other housekeeping, I am going to ask DeLander to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Stand, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We ask that our decisions be of great benefit to this county. We ask that you be with us and guide us throughout. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Head. Do we have a second? Have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, at this time, I need a motion to approve the minutes, and those are for, do I need two motions? Isn't there were two sets of minutes? So are there two motions then for, or do you want to do that all at the same time?
If there's no opposition or no changes to the minutes, you could do them all together, but there's nothing wrong with having two separate motions.
Okay, so I'll need a motion for the approval of minutes for September the 12th and September the 17th. Mr. Head, you make a motion for both? Okay, and I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? Discussion?
Refer to the minutes of September 12th or September?
September 12th and September 17th. There were two sets of minutes. We had two meetings in September.
I got a date here, September 10th on this.
Okay, we need clarification on that because the minutes say September the 10th and our agenda says September the 12th.
It was the 10th. The correct date is the 10th, and so the motion should be for September the 10th.
Okay, so we need to amend that motion. The seconder, can we, do I have permission to amend the motion? Seconder, yes. Mr. Risher? Okay. Okay, and Mr. Head, you're going to amend the motion? Would you go? Okay, for September 10th? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor for, do we need to also then approve the agenda because the agenda had September 12th?
I don't think that is any sort of violation.
Okay, okay. So if everybody's okay with the agenda being have a misprint. We'll just call it that. All in favor of approving the minutes of September 10th and 17th, indicate by raising your hand. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, at this time, we are going to have staff comments. And any comments from staff tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Dante Gibbs, the Director of Planning and Zoning, is feeling under the weather tonight and is not able to be present here tonight. Also, I would like to introduce Kylie Adams. Kylie is the latest person to join the Henry County Planning and Zoning team. Kylie is our new Planning and Zoning Specialist, so please make her feel welcome. In
Okay.
addition, we have 3 conditional use cases, CU 1513. This one, which would have been an assisted living on Old Conyers Road, has been withdrawn by the applicant. The other 2, CU 1514, which is a Verizon wireless communications facility on South Ola Road, and also CU 1515, which would be a Verizon wireless communications facility on Lester Mill Road. Both of these items have been postponed by staff until the January 14th, 2016 meeting.
Okay, thank you. There's no other comments from staff? We will move forward with the agenda items. Okay, if staff could call the first case, please.
Case number RZ 1414, Yi Chen of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to MU, mixed use for the property located at 2153 Jodical Road in land lots 77, 78, and 83 of the 6th District. The property consists of approximately 158.65 acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development. The property is located in District 2 and is being presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good
board
evening.
members. The subject property is located along Jodico Road, just west of the exit 221 intersection of I-75. And it's illustrated on your overhead for your consideration. The property consists of 158.65 acres and extends all the way between Mount Olive Road, which runs alongside I-75, all the way over to the west to Chambers Road, and to the south, it abuts the Mount Olive Road to the east as well as Mount Olive Road to the west. According to the site plan here, the applicant is proposing a 4-lane road which will bisect the subject property. Basically, it will be a continuation of Mount Olive Road as it tracks north from its intersection near Town Center and Jonesboro Road, directly through the subject property to intersect with Jonesboro Road. The preliminary site plan, which is illustrated, shows a town center area in the center, which will consist of a town green. It will consist of a mixed-use development with 2 parking decks, which will be screened by retail uses, other commercial uses, including restaurant and hotel and multifamily uses on the second floors and above. And these are proposed to be 4- and 5-story tall buildings. This area here would be a hotel above the retail uses. And in addition to this mixed-use central area, there are also several areas of straight commercial. So there are big box retail uses here and here, as well as outparcels and other straight commercial uses. To the southwest of the subject property, between the floodplain, which is located here, and Mount Olive and Chambers, there is proposed to be an apartment complex. In the vicinity of that, there will be a daycare center. Please note that the apartment complex takes its access from this connector road between Chambers Road and the proposed 4-lane. There is no vehicular access provided along Mount Olive Road. This property is a request to rezone from RA, residential agricultural, to MU, which is a mixed-use zoning district. And I would just like to say at this time, if you take a note of the subject property that's illustrated on your overhead, the subject property is here. Again, just to the south of Jodico Road, to the west of I-75, the majority of the subject property is shaded purple, and you may be able to see that purple indicates mixed use. This was the county's policy guide, which was adopted in January of this year. And so the applicant's request to rezone to a mixed-use zoning district is supported by the future land use map of the county, which was adopted in January of this year. The county's policy guide was adopted to implement the Livable Centers initiative, which had been approved and adopted in previous years. The county staff, while we were considering the applicant's request, considered the Livable Centers Initiative study, as well as the GRETA Notice of Decision, and GRETA stands for Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, which is the state agency which considers developments of regional impact, which this property is so large and has such an impact that it was required to be considered by the state. And so between the Livable Centers Initiative study, the state conditions that were placed during their review, the county DOT, the county planning and zoning, and the county stormwater department, the staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request with 17 conditions, and the conditions include a required development agreement, as well as compliance with an attached development handbook, which will implement the recommendations of the Livable Centers Initiative. And I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, do the board members have any questions for staff at this time? Mr. Alexander?
In terms of development that we've seen throughout the region, in terms of mixed use, how does this development compare in terms of the scope of it? It appears to be an upscale development with something like we've never seen here before in Henry County.
Yes, that is correct. Now, price point and other upscale features, as far as the actual value of the real estate improvements, these are things that we cannot condition, but judging by the applicant's site plan, it's an attractive site plan. The size of this development is larger than other developments that we may see around the Atlanta region. And so that's why, for the most part, this development is divided up into zones. So in the center, you have a mixed-use town center type zone, but then you also have big box specialty retail and retail superstores, as well as a standalone apartment complex. So this development is actually larger than other developments that we may see around the Atlanta region.
Have you received any comments from the community as far as concern about, traffic, or maybe, in areas like this where there's a lot of people, maybe folks coming off the interstate, to stop and shop and things like that? Will there be any need for maybe a police precinct there or presence? Obviously you can't predict the future, but for concerns of the community, has any of that been addressed?
Well, let me start with what you began with. Yes, we have received phone calls in opposition to the request. We've spoken with homeowners and residents who live along Mount Olive Road to the west. They're concerned about noise, specifically about dumpsters that may be unloaded in the early morning hours, light, traffic, and concerns such as that. We've also been in contact with the operator of the KOA campground that's located to the southeast. Mount Olive to the east is proposed to be, in the future, reopened as part of a ring road, which will serve the perimeter of the development, which will impact the sites within the campground. And so there may be a need for mitigation in the future from light, noise, and traffic for the KOA campground. In addition to that, there are off-site impacts to the transportation system, specifically Mount Olive Road as it tracks to the south toward Henry Town Center and its intersection with Jonesboro Road. Specifically, if that section is four-laned, then additional right-of-way will be required, which will impact McDonough Christian Church and possibly Henry Town Center as well. And so, yes, we've received comments and opposition and concern from these areas.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any comments for staff?
I have one question. Stacy, I noticed DOT is not here tonight, but have these issues been addressed with DOT?
Yes. If you'll take a look at your staff report and the conditions, the third condition is the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority conditions. These are conditions that will be required. These conditions are imposed upon the county by the state. We recommend that they be imposed upon the developer because the developer will be making the impact on the community. The fourth condition are concerns that were brought to light with the applicant's transportation analysis, their traffic study, and so the county DOT has recommended that these road improvements in condition 4 be included as well as the state's conditions. And so, yes, in this manner, the county DOT's concerns are being addressed.
I just have a question about that because it says if warranted by some of this. Who makes that determination? The Henry DOT?
Yes.
Okay. And it's based upon maybe accident or traffic count. What is that based upon?
Traffic count as determined by the travel demand for whatever type of use will be coming to that area. Because right now we have a site plan, but we don't know exactly what's going to come.
Okay. So I guess it's hard to put something in if you don't know what's going to be there, so, right. Okay. Okay, Mr. Risher?
Okay, now, let me just get straight that tonight you're asking approval on the 157 acres that's south of Jericho Road. However, based on the future land use plan, it certainly will impact other uses, such as the church, some of the homes in the area, especially if that road is 4-lane. So, has there been any study of any possible other routes or shifting of the rights of way away from areas that might be severely impacted by the need for future right-of-way?
We had mentioned the county's comprehensive transportation plan, and we're going through an update of that at this time, and that this is the open house that you're talking about. The original comprehensive transportation plan included a very specific treatment of several road corridors in Henry County. One of those was a western corridor that would run somewhere in the vicinity of Flippin Road with a couple of different tracks that were studied on down to Rocky Creek Road and providing north-south connection in Henry County. However, this development is comprised of over 700,000 square feet of commercial alone. And so there is a need to handle the traffic in this immediate area. The best way to handle that traffic is to provide enough capacity between the access points at exit 221 and exit 222. It may not be warranted at the first because the build-out will not happen until 2020, 2025 to have a 4-lane road along Mount Olive immediately, but eventually it's reasonable and it makes sense and it's anticipated that a 4-lane road will be required. Because there is such a constraint. And if you'll notice on this future land use map, this green area, it's largely wetlands. These areas would have to be mitigated even for a road project, and to thread the needle, if you will, between the McDonough Christian Church and Henry Town Center, it will require acquisition of additional right-of-way if the road is 4-lane through that area.
Okay, if we look at a road like Chambers Road, and I realize that road is deficient in terms of the curves and sight distances, but could we look at possibility of Chambers Road as one that should be widened and straightened out to take some of the pressure off of Mount Olive Road? I mean, that's just a thought here, because either way, people in homes and churches will be impacted, but with this big development, that there might ought to be a second, corridor to provide some relief that's a little bit further to the west. And as I recall, the comprehensive plan, I think currently and in years past, has emphasized the need for better north-south connections of roads through the county.
Yes, sir. If you'll take note of condition 4 on page 8 of your site plan, toward the bottom of the page, it lists an intersection improvement that would be required at Chambers Road and Mount Olive Road to the west of the subject property, and also Chambers Road at McCullough Road. They're conditioned to put in road improvements. So even with a 4-lane road that is anticipated between the subject property and Jonesboro Road, those intersections at Chambers and McCullough and Chambers and Mount Olive, these intersections will still need to be improved. So yes, we can look at Chambers as an alternate, but according to their traffic study, that road's going to be utilized in any rate.
Mr. Head, did you have something?
That was some of my concern too, because there's a cemetery there. And that road would come between that cemetery and the campground.
Yes. Yes. The county DOT would oversee the 4-lane of this road because it is a county right-of-way, and the 4-laning of the road could only be done meeting the requirements of the Henry County Department of Transportation. And at this time, I could not quote to you exactly what those requirements are as concerns a cemetery, but it's the planning and zoning departments. We would want them to stay as far away from this cemetery as possible. It is possible to expand a road through a wetlands. It would simply have to be mitigated. And in my professional consideration, that would be preferable to disturbing a cemetery. But I cannot speak on behalf of the Henry County Department of Transportation.
Any other questions for staff from board members? Okay, at this time, we'd like to call the applicant up. You'll have 10 minutes to present your case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Adam Price, managing partner of Falcon Design Consultants. My address is 235 Corporate Center Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. Once again, thanks to Stacy for working with us on this project. It's a large undertaking to try to prepare this and get it ready. To answer Mr. Alexander's question, I believe it will be unlike anything we've seen south of I-20, really. I grew up in my youth on the north side of Atlanta, and everybody's always screaming, hey, bring me some commercial projects that are neat like they have up there. I think this is it. Finally, this is it. But to round it out, I do want to tell you that the Greta notice of decision came out, I guess, not quite 2 weeks ago. We have not had a chance to update our plan since their road connectivity changes to our plan. We have got quite a few building elevations to show you as well for the site, because I know some of your concerns in the workshop were, what is this thing going to look like? We've got some comprehensive building elevations of what this will look like, also some samples that are quite impressive from our architect. I've got to re-pull all that together with this new plan. I want to show you something that's actually going to be done and not something that might be changed by 10 or 20%, something that's a little bit closer. So I wish for you guys tonight to table us, if you can, till January, so I have a chance to get all that stuff done from the state and come back then and present it all to you at one time with the elevations, the color renderings, a lot better sites than you have seen so far in the zoning submittal.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant since he's asked this to be tabled? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
I'm still going to go ahead and open it up for public comment, if that's okay, just for folks, since they've heard that, if they want to make any comments for the record, and then we'll take the vote on the tabling of the case. So for those that want, we're going to go ahead and open it up for those who want to speak in favor of the case. You'll have 10 minutes. Okay, I don't see anyone. If you want to speak in favor of the case, you need to come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and make sure you have filled out a public comment card. This is those who want to speak in favor of the case.
When did they have to start filling out a comment card to speak during the public session? I thought they just come up and speak.
No, they've always had to put a speaker. They had to fill it out with their name and address.
Okay.
They've always had to do that. So,
Madam Chair, it's a great question. If we had a public comment time on the agenda, they would need to fill out their comment card at least 10 minutes before the meeting. We typically don't have a public comment period, but we have typically required comment cards to speak, even for a case, because it just helps us to know how, with spellings and so forth like that.
go ahead. Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Dr. Jayesh Patel. We own Atlanta South RV Park next to this property.
What's your address, sir? What was your address again?
My name is Dr. Jayesh Patel.
What is your address?
281 Mount Olive Road.
Okay, McDonough.
McDonough is Atlanta South RV Park
Okay.
and the campground, basically. Only question I have, then I have a comment actually. I don't want to oppose or support, but the Mount Olive, they are restructuring the road from the new Mount Olive next to our park. And as of now, about 120 people living in that park every day. So I'm guessing, I'm worried about the noise. And I think he already mentioned about his plan about to control the noise. But there will be a lot of noise for the people, those who are living in that area. So is there any provision you guys going to make on that to control the noise for the living people there?
Okay, this is a public, this is for just comment. It's not interaction with the board or the staff. So, and this is for if you want to speak in favor. If you're for this development, then that's what you're going to speak in behalf of. So are you speaking that you are in favor of this case?
In favor, yes.
You're in favor of the case?
Yeah, but I need to make a note of this comment. We need to put some kind of sound barrier wall or something like that.
Okay, so noted.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Anything?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, you may be seated. Anyone else have any comments in favor of the case?
Mindy Mayers. I live at 1008 Peaks Point in Stockbridge, Georgia. McDonough, 30253, city limits of Stockbridge. And I just wanted to say I'm in favor of the development. I think it will attract jobs, businesses, And so I know with growth, there does come some inconveniences. So I just wanted the citizens of Henry County to just be patient. I think, things will work out just like they do in other cities when we do have growth. Some other things do come with it, but I just wanted people to be patient with the inconveniences like the noise. I think things will work out in time, but I would like to see jobs and businesses come to Henry County, so I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case? Excuse me. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Tavares Powell, 515 Englewood Trace, Stockbridge, Georgia. I am in favor for this opportunity. It's a great impact for economics, as we all know, and a lot of people always hoop and holler and jump up and down about jobs, and economic growth. And this is an opportunity, one of a kind for south of Atlanta. In the surrounding area, I think that if we let this go by, I don't know if we ever see something like this in the near future. It's an opportunity for a plethora of shops, dining, hotel, etc. My family, we have a young family, and oftentimes we find ourselves traveling to enjoy what the opportunities that this development presents. Of course, there's job opportunity. I mean, everybody always talking about jobs. So when there's opportunity, I don't know why such a big pushback from the naysayers. Obviously, I mean, I could feel for residents, but I think it's incumbent upon them to make sure that they get what they need in terms of access, noise barriers. I think that whomever sees that as a problem for residents, they need to fight to make sure that that is presented and is designed in this development. It's prime time for travelers coming up and down 75, obviously. Traffic gets bad. This is opportunity for people out of the state to come and drop some money for Henry County. It's an economic impact for Henry County in terms of tax revenue. Obviously, the more businesses that the county can get, this is a chance that we can see more money coming to the county. I like to see a lot of projects, but I'm not one that's in denial about money being used and needed to see greater things come. So I look at it as an opportunity to use this money to help the county. Obviously, as a homeowner, I think as we see more businesses come and spend tax money, at some point, it'll be a burden lifted for me on my property taxes because we'll have some kind of subsidy coming in from other areas and opportunities. So as a supporter, I want to see it. I like to see this happen. My family and I, we do travel to Atlanta to engage in some of these things here. If Costco is a potential client, I was a Costco member, not anymore. So I would like to see these things happen, and I am, again, in support. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case? Please state your name and address for the record.
Shirley Wallace Long, 310 Torrey Trail, Stockbridge, Georgia. I'm in favor of this particular plan due to my profession. I do federal background checks. We bring in so many college students, PHAPs. We bring so many people from across the country into the metro Atlanta area. And as my children are college graduates also, they go out, seek living quarters in Midtown, downtown, somewhere in that area where rents are really high, and they're willing to pay it. If we could get those particular type of young people to come into our areas to build their families, the economic growth for the county would be tremendous. So that's what makes me in favor of it. I process about 2,000 to 3,000 people a year coming into Atlanta. These young people are looking for somewhere. They want to be in a city without being in the city. They want to have all the amenities that is available to them downtown right in their own neighborhoods. A lot of them come from smaller towns with great educations, and they want to have the ability to be able to enjoy the city life without actually being in the city. And I participate in many, many activities that are outside of the county, because you have to go outside of the county in order to enjoy certain arts and things like that. If we had that in our community, that would definitely be a big advertisement, and I believe it would help everyone in the county, especially property growth in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case? Please state your name and address for the record.
Christina Parks, 420 Norman Court, Hampton, Georgia. I'm on the Henry County side. I am in favor of this proposal due to the fact I don't spend my money in Henry County at all. Because of the services that I'm looking for, I get them in other counties: Peachtree City, Noonan, Atlanta, Cobb County. And so based on the proposal that I've been looking at for the past month that you're presenting, those are the type of services that I would like to have in this county. And also it would eliminate the gas that I spend being on the expressway, taking the back roads, trying to get through Atlanta and get back home before 2:30, because that's when traffic starts in Henry County. So this would also help and eliminate that travel time for me. But not only that, the services that I want, and I've lived in Henry County for almost 11 years, but again, the services, I don't spend my money in Henry County because the services that I'm looking for are in other counties. So I really do like the proposal that is being presented.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case?
Mildred Schmelz, 170 Dingscott Court, Ellenwood, Georgia.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and other board members. I am in favor of this, and primarily echoing what my fellow other speakers have said in terms of spending money in other places when we can come and eat in Henry County and spend our money here. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for Henry County. I believe that we can have what the northern part of Metro Atlanta has, and this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. As I have said before, as I've stood before you and other boards, I love Henry County. I've lived here for 23 years. I pay my taxes here, and my children graduated from high school here. This is my county. I want to stay in this county, and this is a great opportunity for the citizens to enjoy some of those things that the other counties have, especially the restaurants. I love to eat, and I love good food. So this is a great opportunity for us, and I hope and pray that you will approve this for the citizens of Henry County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, staff, comment from staff, just a second, please.
Madam Chair, if there are no more questions for me, I need to step out into the lobby at this time. Would that be appropriate?
Go ahead.
Great,
And we're
thank
going to
you.
go and continue with those who want to speak in favor of the case, and we have 1 minute and 3 seconds. Come on up. Talk fast and tell us what you got.
Good afternoon, Bishop Irvin Breyer. My address is 111 Barrington. I'd like to speak in favor of it. How are you this evening, Madam Chair, members? Economic development is something every place needs, and Henry County is no exception. We have highways being fixed to increase our ability to move traffic in and out of the county. You have 75 corridor, 675, and people drive through here in 138 all the time. It would be just great to be able to sit down and dine on your way home and bring things into this county that will not only increase our economic vitality, but to, for millennium people, trails, places to ride bikes. You want to have new vitality here, then we must entertain this as a very positive move. And also, if there are negatives, sit down and work it out with whatever people in the community, noise, anything like that. If we need additional police protection, we should be able to afford it out of that. I think this is a great opportunity for Henry County.
Thank you. Can I, what was you were the pastor of which church? I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, what was you were the pastor of which church?
Crossroad Christian.
Crossroad Christians, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case? No, we're out of time. Okay. Now we'll call those who would like to speak in opposition of the case. You'll have 10 minutes total to speak in opposition of the case. And please state your name and address for the record.
Madam Chairman, I'm Paul Leslie, the pastor of McDonough Christian Church, 2000 Jonesboro Road, McDonough, Georgia, 30253. There was not a box for concern, and so we're here in favor of the development of our county. We have been longtime advocates of growth of Henry County. We appreciate what you all do. You all have a very difficult task. I represent the red shirts behind me, and we're here because we want to be heard. We have had similar situations in the past where we felt like we were overlooked. I do have a concern greatly about the road improvements. If we're going to put this kind of development on Jodico Road, which would be a great place for it, proximity to I-75. We've heard things tonight like the 4-lane may not be extended all the way to Jonesboro Road. We're talking about 700,000 square feet, 2 hotels, and an apartment complex. You can't funnel that onto a 2-lane road that until within the last year was a dirt road serving town center. I want to show you the impact that this has on McDonough Christian Church, if I might. This particular intersection right here is the Jonesboro Road Mount Olive intersection. In the past, there was to be a red light there. My concern is this is not determined or dictated by the county, it's my understanding, because this is temporary State Route 920, so the state governs and makes a decision on whether that red light is warranted. In the proposal that is before y'all that has been tabled, it indicates there are 17 conditions, and then I think number 4, it says that red light would go there when warranted. I don't know how we can begin the development because the construction traffic that will be going to and from that construction site, that red light is past due. And so for this to be approved and that red light to be indicated when warranted, I have a hard time with that. Again, we're for the development. Look at how this is going to affect McDonough Christian Church. If this road comes in, the 4-lane, slated to be between Jonesboro Road and Eagles Landing Parkway, Hudson Bridge, it's 120-foot right-of-way according to the documents that you all have. If you pull from the center line over to our building, our portico post is 75 feet approximately from the current center line. Our senior citizens park on this side of our building, okay? Let me point out one other thing about the proposed plan of the road developments and how this affects us, because this is a domino effect. There'll be a median on Jonesboro Road, so if you're coming from Dutchtown, you're coming from that part of the county, and you're trying to get to our church property, no longer will you have access off Jonesboro Road. So you turn on to Mount Olive Road, and there's a divided median now on the east side of our property. So we once had 6 entrances to our property. How many are we going to have? How are we going to get our people safely to and from? And it's not just our people. In 2 weeks, we'll have 120 fragile kids on our site. We host the Luella Baccalaureate. We do tri-county choral presentations where school buses are coming and going. And so our concern is that this road must be improved immediately, not as an afterthought or after the development begins. There are tractor trailers that use this road regularly, and we're very concerned about it being approved when it says when warranted. When warranted has not worked before. Several years ago, there were 4 out of 5 right-angle accidents. There need to be 5. This is a dangerous situation. We would like for y'all to address that. In the workshop, Madam Chairman, you mentioned about the buffer and trees. There will be no place to plant trees on our side of the road if this were to go through. So we're in favor. I would encourage maybe look at an alternate route for this road. The traffic is already bad, and so I don't want to take anybody else's time. But thank you. We are concerned. We're in favor of the growth of the county, but we're concerned that this is not addressed on the front end of this particular proposal tonight. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case? If you'd like to speak in opposition of the case, please come forward. State your name.
My name is Lou Martin, 132 Crossing Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281. Thank you, Madam Chairman and board members. I'd like to reiterate what Paul Leslie has just said. But I have a concern when this project has that many apartments included in it. Like Stacy said, they can't dictate pricing to the owner or the developer. Our county is already strained in their services. We're not meeting our county budget for income on our taxes to pay our policemen, our firemen. We're having to give up different things in different areas to get these done. I'm all in favor of the development, but I'd like to see maybe some nice townhomes built for 55 and older people, maybe something along those lines that would attract stable people, good revenue, tax revenue, and pride of ownership, rather than another multifamily that's supposed to be high-scaled. We've had 2 of those that were supposed to have been built, and they've turned out not to be so high-scale, but regular apartments. So I'd like for y'all to take in consideration on that as an overall effect on the county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case?
4 minutes, 24 seconds.
Karen Garcia, 497 Mount Olive Road.
Can you pull the microphone up toward you? Thank you.
My name's Karen Garcia. My address is 497 Mount Olive Road. You had mentioned that you had approached a lot of the residents on that street.
Board, please.
Yes. He had mentioned that he's approached residents on the street to get their comments. As far as I know, nobody has been approached. We live right across the street on Mount Olive, where all the buildings going on. I've lived there for 28 years, and now with the traffic so bad, I can't even walk out to my mailbox without being ran over. We've called the county and asked for police to come out and slow the people down. And now they're talking about building a 4-way road there. And we're just, the residents on that street are very, very upset because nobody has spoken to us at all about it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case? You have 3 minutes. Okay, I don't see anyone come. Oh, yep, come on. Preacher. Pray for us all. Okay, so we're going to close out the comment period and ask the applicant to come back up to the podium.
He's pulling this case.
I know, but I'm just going to go through the whole. I mean, we have to. You heard some of the comments. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. I know you're going to table. You want us to table it. So, but just didn't know it is being televised for the audience out there. If anybody, if you want to add anything.
I know there was a concern about, I think one of you mentioned a police precinct. That was one of the concerns. I actually talked to my client about that a few weeks ago. They have a similar situation over at Fayette Pavilion in Fayetteville, where they added a police precinct afterwards, where they should have probably put it in the beginning. He agrees that he'll put it in the development agreement that is yet to be written. That's another reason for the delay. They've got a lot of stuff to do there. We just got the county stuff last week, so the lawyers couldn't write all that up this quick. And he's going to put in there that he's going to place a spot for a police precinct.
Okay, so that was my question. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant before I ask him to be seated?
I just have one.
Mr. Alexander, I'll let you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Alexander.
Okay. All right. The question being in the 5-story buildings, I guess over there, there's some talk of some condominiums in there as well as the apartments that were mentioned already.
That, along with some of the higher end tenants, we're having to adjust around and move around. We also have an economic study that we'll probably share as well. Here in about a month or two. Condos are certainly on the table, as well as there are some townhomes, I think, shown on our revised plan, and apartments are still on the table. So I think it's going to be probably a mix of all three.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
Yes. You've heard some of the opposing concerns, and I guess my question would be, do you plan to address those concerns?
I guess in y'all's workshop and the concerns I've gotten here is mostly about the traffic. We had a comprehensive traffic study done at the request of Greta and ARC that addresses probably every item within a, I don't know how many mile radius of this site, including out in front of Jericho Road, not just at the intersection in front of the church that Pastor Leslie referenced. So all that has been studied. All those recommendations are in there, including by DOT. And I think it was studied for as far out as 10 years. So it's pretty comprehensive. I've urged everybody to read it. If you have chance to between now and January, I believe the county has a copy of it. I urge you to look at it. It's really thick. I could talk about it all day up here, but I don't think we have that much time. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Mr. Alexander?
A lot of things have been talked about jobs. Is there analysis on how many jobs this would create?
I don't have the exact numbers yet. I have some rough numbers as far as the cost of the project is going to be about $300 million at build out. You know, I've heard conservative estimates. I know one gentleman was talking about the tax revenue and not being able to pay for this. From what we've come up with, it's about $25 to $27 million a year in additional tax revenue for the county at build out, which is quite substantial. You know, I don't know the exact number of jobs, Mr. Alexander. I will have that probably for the next meeting, the estimate. We're switching around the tenants. I mean, every time we think we have a tenant, somebody higher up the chain comes along and says, we want in. And since we did the Greta and the DRI and finished, now they're coming out and saying, you know, I want in. You know, we've got things I can tell you without breaking my non-disclosure agreement, which if there's a lawyer in the room, they'll probably drag me out of here. I have asked permission to say some of the potential retailers, and there's a high-end organic grocer. There's a high-end department store lined up as of now. There is many higher-end fashion-type stores, and there's a lot of chef-driven restaurants. And what I mean by chef-driven is not your typical stuff that we've seen, you know, with apologies to some of the fast food places. More nicer restaurants. I think people would, and there's an entertainment venue and some parkland reserved on the property. So I think, like I said, once I get the final stuff and the elevations from the architect finished, you guys will, everybody here will be able to see a lot more than what I can show you today. And I just didn't think it was fair for people, especially. I knew there was going to be some people that were opposed, and I understand their opposition. I myself have lived here for 17 years. My 3 kids have known nothing but Henry County, so I recognize their complaints. I also, you know, recognize the people that spoke in favor of the project, which were a lot of the same reasons that I myself like it. So. You know, I'll be glad to come back to you, but, you know, right now I just don't think it's fair to you guys, because I can show you, I mean, literally, I'll have a presentation we can put up here and everybody in the room can see it, and it will be much more comprehensive. I've got part of it here, but it's just not ready. It doesn't match what I think we're doing, and what we're doing is, like I said, it's more like, how can I word this? The Avalon that was planned down here got hit by and killed by the recession somewhat. The Avalon on the north side that just opened with the commercial venues and the living spaces and the nice little green areas and the restaurants, more like that.
I have a question on that, because they do limit what they have there. They don't allow fast food and things like that. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, I know that a lot of these high-end even restaurants, before they come into a community, they do a medium wage, you know, study. And a lot of times, you know, Henry County doesn't fit that that average wage study, because, and they won't come into our area.
Sure.
So how are you guys addressing that? Because you know, those businesses, those high-end businesses, they use those statistics for them because they have a certain clientele. And so you know, what guarantee do we have that we're going to have those high-end stores come into that area like an Avalon?
Well, I mean, you know, Avalon has some stores. They've got Antico Pizza, which I don't think I would call high-end. It's a pizza joint, but it's a chef-driven pizza place. It's one of the top pizza makers in Atlanta. They got one downtown. I go to it often. You know, I think if you're looking at, you know, the installation of a bunch of Chops-style restaurants with chops and bones and everything else lined up together, I mean, I don't think we're getting that. I mean, we're not going to get places that you go in there and you'll pay $55, $60 for an 8-ounce filet. I don't think that's coming. But what's coming? Well, no, I look, there's an opportunity there. I mean, they haven't, what you got to understand is the big tenants are going to come first.
Okay.
And when the higher end tenants that they've discussed with me and the high end organic groceries come in that are more associated with that style of living come, you just don't know what you're going to get. What you're not going to get is the bottom of the barrel stuff right there, because it's going to be too expensive for them to come.
Okay.
So you're going to see the higher end stores come in and take a risk. You know, there are some higher end living areas in Henry County, and this just happens to be close to one at Eagles Landing. It's a very high end area. You know, so I think there's potential for Henry County. Everybody keeps harping on, oh, well, Henry County's not high end enough. Why not? Why can't we be?
That's right.
I mean, I don't understand that. Why can't we try it? I mean, it's better than, you know, a lot of our so-called promise developments, without mentioning any names, commercial, had a lot of promise 10 years ago, but, you know, a lot of economic conditions killed them. And I think the economic conditions right now are a little bit more ripe for this. I mean, heck, this land was probably on your docket 10 or 12 years ago as part of a rezoning that just never got finalized. I think the timing now is pretty good. And if it's going to ever happen here, really, I mean, if you think about it, when I show you this in you know, shortly, you'll see what I'm saying. That, I mean, Peachtree City doesn't have this type of stuff, not this type of development. They don't. Yeah, they have a walkable avenue, but this is much more dynamic and landscape friendly than the avenue in Peachtree City. I heard one woman say she shops in Peachtree City. So I've been over there and I've seen that. I've seen these elevations, these plans. It's much more dynamic than that, much more. It doesn't even compare. I think it's an opportunity here, and yes, the traffic needs to be addressed. I agree with these people. It does. And I think the traffic study addresses that. And I think the county's conditions address that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
no more comments to the applicant, then you may be seated.
Thank you.
If we can call the case.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to table case RZ-14-14.
If you can let them call the case first, and then we'll do the motion. That's okay. Call the case.
Case number RZ-1414, Yi Chen of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to MU Mixed Use for the property located at 2153 Jodical Road in land lots 77, 78, 83 of the 6th District. The property consists of 158.65 acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development. The property is located in District 2 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan.
Can we have a motion for this case? Ms.
Madam
Nadler.
Chair, I now make a motion to table case RZ-14-14.
Can we have a motion to table this case? I do have a second. Second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor in tabling the case, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, we can call the next case.
Case number RZ-1517, Janice Howe of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for the property located on the south side of Snapping Shoals Road in land lots 11, 4, and 143 of the 8th District. The property consists of 36.49 plus or minus acres, and the request is for the development of a single-family residential subdivision.
If I can get the comments to please be taken outside. We cannot hear staff, so if you'll just hold on just a second,
Okay.
I apologize. We're gonna hold off just a second. Please take your conversations outside. You may continue, thank you.
Okay. The property consists of 36.49 plus or minus acres, and the request is for the development of a single-family residential subdivision. The property is located in District 3 and is being presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. In the request that is being presented to you today, the applicant's requesting a rezoning from RA to R2 for the purpose of a single-family residential subdivision. As you can see in the aerial, on the screen, the property is located on the south side of Snapping Shoals Road between North Ola and Austin Drive. The property consists of 2 parcels that, when combined, equal 36.49 plus or minus acres and is currently a vacant lot. If we take a look at the zoning map, the property is surrounded by RA zone properties, including to the east various flag lots, and towards the west is the various flag lots, and towards the east we have 2 R3 subdivisions. So now if we take a look at the future land use map, the properties, the future land use designation is low density, which allows for a net density of 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. The proposed subdivision is R2, which is consistent with the designation at 1.1 dwelling units per acre. Taking a look at the site plan, what is being proposed is 8.8 plus or minus acres of designated open space and common area for passive recreation. In the applicant's letter of intent and in the site plan, it shows 33 lots being proposed. These are being proposed to be craftsman-style homes with a minimum lot sizes of 30,000 square feet. The category of future land use for low-density residential calls for typical residential subdivisions developments in R1 and R2 zoning districts. The property would have to, or the lots would have to conform to section 2.01.02C, design standards of R2. From the preliminary plan, site plan, these are being met with a minimum heated floor space proposed of 2,000 square feet, and the requirement for R2 is 1,600 square feet. These are being proposed with individual septic. So as shown before, the closest subdivisions to the property are R3. They're currently undeveloped, and in 2007 and 2005, they were approved as R2 zone properties. In 2009, however, changes to what were categorized as R2 changes the properties to be R3 because they didn't meet the minimum of 30,000 square feet lots. And these would require a sewer system. In the letter from the school board, it states that at this time, both North Ola and North Ola High are already over capacity, and the result of this proposed development would create an estimated 97.5 students, which would result in the need for 4 additional classrooms. So if we look at the site plan, the southern portion, or to the right, is where the property is limited, as it is a portion of it is within a 100-year floodplain. And the development would have to meet the development requirements of protecting the stream of Island Shoals Creek. So further development requirements will have to be addressed during the plan review phase. So access to the subdivision will occur through Snapping Shoals Road. Currently, the road is deficient in width per the county code. So it would have to be improved per section 8.01.07 to the nearest intersection meeting standards of the county, which is North Ola Road. That being said, staff recommends approval with 15 conditions. The conditions that staff has recommended were based on the surrounding undeveloped conditions that were placed on those subdivisions in 2005 and 2007. So I'm happy to address any questions the board may have.
Okay, do any board members have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, hearing none, if I can ask the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Steve Moore. I'm with Moore-Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia, representing the applicant tonight in this rezoning request. As Josephine mentioned, and she covered a lot of the specifics on this project, 36.5 acres on Snapping Shoals Road. Our proposal is to rezone it from RA to R2 with septic tank lots for 33 total lots. That's a reduction of our previous layouts based on a couple of conditions, but one is that there is, as Josephine mentioned, an area on the south end of the project adjacent to Island Shoals Creek that has some portion of floodplain. It's not entirely in the floodplain, but probably 100 feet or so off the creek is. So our layout as currently drawn dedicates approximately 9 acres of open space at the rear portion of the property. That area will contain our detention facility for the subdivision, as well as just a lot of very nice current wooded property. This particular layout shows obviously the access to Snapping Shoals Road. It also shows a centralized mailbox unit, which is one of the zoning conditions that Josephine has recommended, and that's shown here. In addition, that area also provides an access to the open space area. So there's sidewalks in the community. We've placed the central mailbox unit there. Again, it also will provide an easy access into the open space, and in that access strip would be the access to the detention pond plus whatever other access requirements they have to get into use the open space areas. The conditions also suggest or recommend a landscape buffer along Snapping Shoals Road, and that is shown on this plan, and we're in agreement with that. In addition, we've proposed a 25-foot undisturbed buffer on the west side of the property to provide some visual screen between the only platted residential lots that exist adjacent to this property. And so we've provided that, and that's also a recommendation as well. We're consistent with the future land use map. We believe that the project is going to be a asset to the community. The housing style is a popular and attractive style, the craftsman style homes. I presented a zoning to you a couple of months ago on with a similar concept, and this will be very much the same. That was the comparison was Sage Creek. And again, if you've been through that subdivision, it's a very nice subdivision, has great curb appeal, and we believe this will complement that and be very similar to that in nature. Understand the staff's recommended approval. We are in agreement with the conditions that they've recommended, and hopefully you'll agree, and I'm here to answer any questions that you've got.
Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant at this time? You must have answered all of their questions. Okay,
Good.
you may be seated.
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. I don't see anyone coming up, so we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of this case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Leangela Shaw. I live at 10 Maranatha Road, which my property is also adjacent to Snap and Shoals Road. My number one concern about this property is safety. Snap and Shoals has a very high volume of traffic. It's a very narrow road. I understand that they are planning to widen the road, but the volume is so high on that road, even widening it, unless you made it 4 lanes, it's just a lot of traffic, especially since you turn onto North Ola to go to all the schools, elementary, middle, and high school. With 33 houses, you're looking at 66 more cars. If any of you have teenagers, so you're looking at 75, possibly more cars, and it's just a lot more traffic. And the reason I bring up safety is because I personally, where this sits, it's just over a rise. And a couple of years ago, I guess because there's so much traffic, people get in a hurry or they get frustrated. I actually met 2 cars coming towards me, one in my lane, one in the other. I had to run off the road to keep from being hit on the road. So I just think possibly where this street comes into Snapping Shoals could be a safety issue. Also, the subdivisions that were brought up that were R3, those subdivisions haven't been developed. If you look at actual subdivisions in the area, predominantly they're RA. So, whereas I know this one wants to be R2. I mean, at the very least, if there was a way to keep it RA, just to cut down on the number of houses and the number of cars. And if the school is at capacity now, and you're going to add another 90-something students, I mean, no one wants to see their child taught in a trailer, which is what they would have to do is add trailers. So, and also too, the one last point that I would like to make is, in the report it says that a sign was posted, which is true, but it also said that postcards were mailed out. Of all the neighbors I've talked to on Snap and Shoals Road, no one received a postcard about this. So I just think that should be looked into. When something like this is coming up, people should, know about it if you say that, you're going to do that. And I would like to ask, if you do recommend this and it does go to the Board of Commissioners, if it could go to the Board of Commissioners in January when people get so distracted in December with holidays, to be able, since we didn't get postcards, to be able to organize and get some people there, it just would be beneficial for those of us against it. Thank you for your time, Madam Chairwoman and board members.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and speak in opposition of the case? Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. If we can ask the applicant to please come back to the podium. And this will be the time for any board members to, after hearing comments, to ask you if they have any other further questions. Mr. Risher.
Yes, Mr. Moore. I'd like to know, I don't believe I saw in the list of the staff conditions, but and I know this subdivision only has 33 lots, but would it be feasible to put a XL and decel lane at the entrance?
I believe that was a condition, wasn't it?
Yeah. So condition 15.
All right. I do see it now. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, you may be seated.
Can I respond to any of the comments?
No,
that she might
it's
have had?
just the board members would have to ask you that question.
Not a problem.
Okay, you may be seated.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, someone please call the case.
Case number RZ1517, Janice Howell of McDonough, Georgia, requested rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for the property located on the south side of Snapping Shoals Road in land lots 11, 4, and 143 of the 8th District. The property consists of 36.49 plus or minus acres, and the request is for the development of a single-family residential subdivision. The property is located in District 3 and was presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Do we have a motion for this case? Mr. Risher?
Yes. I make a motion to approve the request for the R2 zoning with the 15 conditions reported by staff, including deceleration and acceleration tapers pursuant to the Henry County DOT standards.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of this case. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Head. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, let's call the next case, please.
Case number RZ1518, James A. Brooks, Jr. of Jonesboro, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R4 Single Family Residence for the property located at 337 East Lake Road in Land Lot 7 of the 7th District. The property consists of 41.96 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision. The property is located in District 4 and is being presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Board members. Good evening. The subject property is located on East Lake Road, just to the east of its intersection with Highway 155. The property is located between East Lake Elementary School and Glen Haven Church on the north side of East Lake Road. The property is proposed to have 72 lots on the 41.96 acre site. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan indicates that the property is within what we refer to as the Union Grove School Node Activity Center. And you may be able to see on your overhead that the subject property is located on the east part of this school node, and the blue areas indicate the schools. Immediately to the west is East Lake Elementary. Immediately to the south across East Lake Road is Union Grove Middle, and also on the south side of East Lake Road and to the west is Union Grove High School. You'll note on page 8 of your staff report that the property is located within a quarter of a mile of the front doors of these schools, as indicated by these radii in red in your staff report. According to the county's policy guide, which is reiterated in the Unified Land Development Code, which is Henry County's zoning code, within the school nodes, we are to maximize the number of residences within convenient walking and biking distance of schools. And we are to favor these locations over locations out in more rural areas where the school children would have to be transported in. Also within the typology, please note that for a school node, the average net housing density is 3 dwelling units per acre. And by the time you take into consideration the 41.96 acre subject property, the 72 lots that are being proposed, and you back out the areas for the road right-of-way for the internal streets, as well as the estimated floodplain, you get about 2.18 dwelling units per acre, which is below the 3 dwelling units per acre, which is allowed by the policy guide for Henry County, as well as the Unified Land Development Code, which is the county's zoning ordinance. Now, there's an impact on the schools. On your overhead, please note the letter from the school board. And what that indicates is that at this time, East Lake Elementary has no classroom trailers. Union Grove Middle has 6. Union Grove High School has 10. The school board estimates that for the 72 lots, that approximately 180 new students will require accommodation. This will require 8 additional classrooms. For permanent facilities, which is a brick and mortar addition to these schools, that would be about $300,000 per classroom, or about $2.4 million for permanent additions to these schools. As an alternate, a classroom trailer would cost about $15,000, or that relates to about $120,000 to accommodate these additional 180 students. Also, on your overhead, there's the letter from the Water and Sewage Authority, and what they say is that sewage treatment and sewer line capacity are presently available to the property. Also, water service is currently available to the property. The sewage availability will require a line extension, which may require the acquisition of easements and so forth on the developer's responsibility. The water and sewer letter does not indicate that any sort of lift station or any sort of special accommodation would be made. The zoning map shows that in the area, and the subject property is indicated in this green hatched area, that it backs up to an R3 subdivision. Just down the road is an R2. Further to the east is an R1, and further to the west, there is an R2. So the only one of these subdivisions in the immediate vicinity is right behind the subject property, and it also has sewer capacity. It's an R3. The subject property is closer to the schools, which are immediately adjacent to the west across East Lake Road, and the subject property is also immediately adjacent to Glen Haven Church. They're requesting an R4, which is a higher intensity use than the adjacent property to the rear, which is an R3. Because the Henry County Future Land Use Map, Comprehensive Plan, and Zoning Code indicates that we should be encouraging the maximum number of residences within a convenient walking and biking distance of schools to accommodate these school children, the staff has recommended approval of the applicant's request for R4 with 11 conditions, which are illustrated on the overhead and are included in your staff report on page 9. And please note that these conditions are heavy on safety for children walking and biking to school. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board or staff?
I just like, where did you say there was another R4 that has been approved? Can you show it?
And if I said R4, that I misspoke. Immediately behind the subject property is an R3. And the reason that it's an R3 is because it's the only one of these subdivisions in this vicinity which actually has sewer service. So whereas the R3 toward the back will have a minimum lot size of 18,000 square feet, the subject property will feature lots with a minimum lot size of 12,000 square feet. And there will be lots that are larger, but the minimum is proposed to be 12,000 square feet in compliance with the county's Unified Land Development Code.
And so all of those have already been approved for development? Is that what you're saying?
The R3, yes, that is correct, and the other subdivisions that are featured as well.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay. At this time, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robbie Moore. My address is 127 Jonesboro Road. I'm here on behalf of the Smith family, who is on this property for over 50 years. This property has been in their family. The children are grown now, and they live out of state. and they've been here. They've paid taxes for over these 50 years. Not one time did they ever come to complain about any of the developments going on around them. And they're just here asking for the same treatment that's been given to the other surrounding areas. Have this right here, if we can look at this, Mr. Stacy. Probably too big to put in there. So many times nowadays people will come in and developers will come in and the first thing they'll do is they'll eliminate the trees that are on a piece of property. As you'll notice, this piece of property right here, this is the subject property. This is the elementary school that we're talking about. This is the Glen Haven Church, which just has a beautiful new addition to it. Of course, Union Grove High School and Union Grove Middle School. All three of these schools are schools of excellence in Henry County. That is one of the reasons that so many people want a home in this area. With the downturn in the economy, I don't have to tell you that there hadn't been very many houses built in this area, hadn't been very many subdivisions approved in this area in some time. There was the one subdivision right here that was left with some lots in it. That subdivision has been completely built out now. The one wonderful thing about this piece of property is we're less than one half mile from the East Lake Parkway, which is a 4-lane that'll put you right on Eagles Landing Parkway and straight out to 75. So the additional traffic problems that may be caused are very minimal. We only have 72 homes here. There's a couple of things that have happened since the staff recommendation. One of the things is we increase the size of some of the lots, and therefore we're down to the two lots per acre size on our homes. There's quite a few stipulations that the county has recommended. I think we meet or exceed most of those recommendations. I'll be happy to go over those with you now or later. The average home price out there will be starting in the upper 200s up to $500,000. There's a number of folks that are waiting on this subdivision because, like I said, there have not been any additional houses built out here in the last few years, with the exception of the subdivision right behind us. We meet all the guidelines of the zoning department. We've met extensively with the zoning department and gone over this. We're not wanting to be opposed, or we're not wanting to be in opposition to any of the zoning. That's why we came in and met with the staff, went over this, and we feel like that we have a very workable plan that would be something that the county could be proud of and the homeowners be proud of as well. Earlier tonight, we heard so many of the people talking about how they wanted the nicer places to shop. They wanted the nicest places to eat. I saw Mr. Williams was in the audience earlier. I remember when people showed up to oppose Eagles Landing. I'm glad that we have Eagles Landing. These are houses right here, these nicer restaurants and shopping centers. These are the type homes that they look for. They look for the $250,000 and up homes because those are the people that will be shopping there. Those are the people that will be dining there, along with everyone else. But this is what Henry County deserves, and we want it to be a very nice community. Of course, like I've said, we've worked with the staff, and the children's safety is always utmost to any development, and that's what we would do. We've talked with Stacy. We've also had some communication with the Board of Education as how we can provide walking to the elementary school, and we wouldn't even have to come up to East Lake. We would keep some paths in the subdivision to where they could just go over and they wouldn't come up to the road there. But like I said, we're willing to do the stipulations that have been put forth through staff. We're willing to exceed some of these minimum requirements, and the Smith family just asked that you do like has been done out there before, and like the future land use map calls for, that you approve this petition this evening.
Okay, thank you. Does the board members have any questions for the applicant? Question, we have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you made the lots larger, so how many lots are there now?
Well, what we did is we took the density down by increasing the size of the lots. We had some open areas around the lakes and around the lake. And after meeting with Mr. George Patterson and the engineer department, they had recommended that the lots go into the lake. So we did that. The lots here are bigger than the minimum we're asking for. What we have done is we didn't have a way to ask for the R2 or R3 recommendation and make the lot more narrow. So what we had to do is our lot sizes are bigger than the 12,000 minimum that the R4 allows per your zoning code. Most of the lots, as you can see right here now, you can see how deep the lots are. The only problem is we have a narrower lot. Some communities allow you to apply for that zoning and reduce the size, but when your zoning department or your zoning regulations won't allow for a reduction in the frontage. So that's where the smaller lot comes from. It's just the reduction in the width of the lot, not the depth of the lot.
So there's still 72 lots?
Yes, ma'am. There's 72 lots. Realistically, we think we're going to lose a couple of lots. We have not fully engineered this layout. We've done some preliminary studies, but it's when we fully engineer it, we feel like we're probably going to lose 2 lots. One of the things that the U.S. Postal Service is requiring now, a lot of people don't like it, but as we're told, they tell the Henry County staff as well as they tell developers, we're not going to deliver mail in your neighborhood if you don't have a centralized mailbox. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to address is the centralized mailbox. The other thing that we're going to have to address is we're going to have to address the walking path over here next to the elementary school between some of the lots. Henry County DOT right now is doing some road work out there. I think y'all discussed it in your pre-meeting, and I don't know if that is a SPLOST program or a project or a Henry County DOT project, but they've already acquired some right-of-way right here along East Lake Road, right there across the street from the high school. The one good thing about it is there is a school crossing guard that's out there, uniformed officer that's out there every day for the bus traffic and for pedestrian children, young people that are moving to and from school.
So the minimum heated floor space is still 1,800 square feet?
No, ma'am. On the stipulation right here, we've agreed to, the staff is recommending, we've agreed to 2,500 square foot minimum, 2,500 square foot. Okay. And there's a list of 11 items here that we have agreed to.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
The staff mentioned that a lot of these conditions are based on safety.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is, it's a red flag.
Yes, ma'am.
Red flag beginning because it's a lot of houses in an area that is already just so busy. And I appreciate the fact that you know that it's an access to Interstate I-75, but you got to get down to the 4 lane. And you've got 3 schools and a church. And safety is the first thing. Traffic is another thing. So I don't want to downplay the traffic concerns. I don't want to downplay the safety concerns, what you're going to need to do to make all that happen. And so, as presented, I feel like there's a lot of things that need to be done before, it looks like these things are going to be taken care of, So it's just hard for me to imagine that many homes in that area that's already so very, very busy on that little road. With the schools, the 3 schools, and I know there's, traffic cops out there, but safety is a huge, huge concern. And the fact that, we're not meeting the average house density, we're still not there. And I feel like that we need, bigger lots, maybe less houses, but that's not what was presented. So I don't know if you want to make comment about that or not.
Well, one thing we have done is the county is addressing the road. They're out there now. They've bought the necessary right-of-way, and they are addressing the road. The one thing about it is, there again, on the school system. They're not going to have buses because of the close proximity to the school. You already have neighborhoods here. You already have neighborhoods here and neighborhoods here. And here again, we're fortunate in the fact that we're adjacent to an elementary school. And that's what we were talking about. We won't even put them out on East Lake Road. They'll be able to come through the subdivision and directly access the elementary school. So we think that is a great thing. The other thing is, I can't think of anywhere in Henry County, we approved, the board here approved one out 81, and 81 is 2-lane, all the way from McDonough Square, all the way out 81. Here we are, we're 2-lane, less than 1/2 mile until we're 4-lane. And I know on 42, every day I'm on 42 and just traffic. But here, we're able to be as close as we can be to the 4-lane. And I think, you know, what better place, we meet the guidelines that the future land use map calls for. And I mean, there's really no other property that we could even be on the 4-lane net between our piece and and where the 4-lane actually starts.
I don't have anything else.
I have a question myself.
It looks like a quality development to me. You spoke about the connectivity. What would be the actual process behind? Will those be sidewalks? Will there be paths? How exactly does it work?
Yes, sir. What the staff is recommending here, they've recommended a 10-foot multi-use path paved with concrete or asphalt or other approved surfaces by the Henry County DOT, because you have to be ADA compliant or anything like that. So what we would foresee is probably a concrete, just like a sidewalk, because this community is going to be a sidewalk community. If that's not even a stipulation, we're willing to stipulate that, sidewalks on both sides of the road, and a lot of folks like that. And that's what we would have back here between our houses here and up to the elementary school. We don't want it in the back here because they would be behind the school. We want to come in here with the school. Like I said, we've had some communications with the school there, and they love the fact that they don't have to provide the buses.
Yeah, and then you said it was going to be a 10-foot wide path versus a sidewalk as well, correct?
No, yes, sir. It would be in addition to the sidewalks. Sidewalks would be all the way on both sides of the road, and there would be a 10-foot path between lots here that would provide the access. In addition to that, we're still going to have the sidewalks along the frontage out here.
Okay, so you are going to put, that was my next question.
Yes,
so there'll
sir.
be sidewalks fronting, connecting down to the church as well.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. The other thing is that we've talked with staff on is you put the sidewalks along the front, and they're talking about protection for people walking. You know, Eagles Landing Parkway doesn't have any. I don't know of any other place that have any, but we're not opposed to moving the sidewalks back and having a decorative fence, a wrought iron fence, aluminum fence that goes along the front with brick columns, and the pedestrians actually walking behind that as opposed to the street side. Now, I haven't seen it on any other Henry County street, but we're not opposed to that at all, because we're all about safety.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? But I do have one question in reference to the 10-foot path between the lots.
Yes, sir.
How will that work exactly? Are you taking out a lot, or?
We would reconfigure a couple of these lots, and this right here, as you see, these two houses are facing the main entrance right here. Okay. We may actually turn these houses and face this cul-de-sac road and provide the access through here to the school, to the school that's right next door. You see the school. We would prefer to be from the building front. We don't want the children walking in behind the school, but we would prefer to come right in here here's where the children get out of the cars or out of the buses now. So what we would prefer is the easy access to come right there, so the children would have it. We would also, if the church would allow, we'd like to have a walk to the church, so folks could walk through the neighborhood to the church. But that's totally up to them. We would be open to that. Like I said, we're going to put the sidewalks along the front of East Lake Road. There are no sidewalks out here now on this side of East Lake Road, but we're going to start our portion of the sidewalk here, and hopefully the county or or the church, whoever would continue that sidewalk to allow walking past there as well.
All right, any additional questions? At this time, you may be seated, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
At this time, we'd like to allow 10 minutes for those who would like to speak in favor of the case. 10 minutes for those who would like to speak in favor of the case. No one is coming forward. We would like to allow 10 minutes for those speaking in opposition of the case. No one coming forward. You may.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes.
If I may, I just want to state for the record that the Planning and Zoning Department we've received 5 emails in opposition, and these emails are from Ann Burchin, Diana Schaff, Jan May, Garrett Skelton, and Angie Radney, and these emails will be made a part of the record by reference.
Okay. All right. Again, do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition of the case? Okay, you may come forward, sir. Does the staff have any additional questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
You call the case, please?
Case number RZ1518, James A. Brooks, Jr. of Jonesboro, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R4 Single Family Residence for the property located at 337 East Lake Road in Land Lot 7 of the 7th District. The property consists of 41.96 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision. The property is located in District 4 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan.
Okay, we have the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to deny this case.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second? A second. Have a second. All in favor? I'm sorry, discussion? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next case, please.
Case number RZ1519, LFW Westridge LLC of Peachtree Corners, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to M1 Light Manufacturing for the property located at 738 Ferris Drive in Land Lot 193 of the 7th District. The property consists of 4.168 plus or minus acres, and the request is for an industrial distribution facility. The property is located in District 2 and is being presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. In the application I'm presenting to you today, the applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA to M1 for the purpose of a 400,000 square foot industrial warehousing and distribution center. The property consists of 4.168 plus or minus acres and is currently a single family dwelling. From the zoning map on the projector, you can see that the property is surrounded by in pink planned development, and this is the Westridge planned development. To the north of the property is an RA zoned property. To give you a better idea of what the Westridge planned development zoning is, so where the pen is where the subject property is, and it's white. To the surrounding gray is actually M1 zone pods for Westridge. To the north of the power line are C2 zoned pods for the Westridge development. So the future land use plan for the property calls for high-density residential, which is 6 to 16 units per acre, which is not consistent with the proposed industrial use. But as mentioned before, the current plan development zoning for the surrounding properties are commercial and industrial, and a high-density residential use would be inconsistent with the character of the area and future development. A preliminary site plan identifies the proposed abandonment of the southern portion of Ferris Drive fronting the property. And that is hatched out on the site plan. With the proposed abandonment, the subject property is to be combined with the 31.8 acres, plus or minus acres, that's surrounding the property, which are M1 under the Westridge plan development. Some of the positives of the proposed rezoning would be the increased security of the large wooded area that is currently the M1 portion of the PD. Other positives would be it would better suit the surrounding character of the Westridge plan development. It also would create a better job housing balance. One of the limitations on the property is that it is located within a limited development area of the Walnut Creek and Indian Creek Watershed Protection District, and would have to meet the required criteria by the ordinance, including impervious surface to be 25%. Impacts of this rezoning would include increased vehicle traffic, waste and noise pollution. But since most of the properties surrounding the property are commercial and industrial, the impact will be quite minimal and can be mitigated by appropriate zoning conditions. The requested M1 light manufacturing zoning is not consistent with the future land use map designation of high-density residential. However, the requesting zoning is in line with the industrial and commercial patterns that are currently present and have been designated for the area through the approved master plan of the Westridge plan development. Staff recommends approval with 7 conditions. And I will now get any questions from the board.
Any board members have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, I don't see any. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Head, I apologize.
The house that sits on Ferris Drive, is that included in this parcel?
Yes, so sorry, I thought I had an aerial, but yes, it would be included in it.
She said yes, it would be included.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff at this time? If no more questions, I'd like to ask the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Alex Crumley. I practice law at 80 Macon Street in McDonough. I live at 1743 Highway 20 East, McDonough. And I'm here representing the applicant, LFW Westridge LLC, and also on behalf of Willie Robert Elliott, who owns the house in the 4 acres. I think staff has done a very good job with this, and I won't bore you by repeating what the lady has said, but I think I can clear up why this 4 acres ended up in the middle of Westridge with the house on it. A Ms. Ethelyn Farris owned 700 acres out there, and when she died, she left her house in the acreage to Willie Robert Elliott to thank him for his many years of dedication to looking after her and driving her, and she was a lady who had no husband and no children to look after her. So that's why that house and 4 acres ended up there where it is. Willie Robert Elliott wants now to be able to sell it, and the applicant intends to build a warehouse of some 400,000 feet, which I think will be a benefit to the tax base of the county. This will be good for Mr. Elliott because he'll be able to sell the property at a good price. So I think that it's a win for both of them if the county will approve it and if they are successful in putting this together. The 4 acres is not all that Mr. Elliott owns. There is some more that I think about another 4 acres behind it, and that's why initially the report had said that Ferris Drive would be abandoned. That's not entirely true. We called their attention that part of it is to be closed, but if it were all closed, Mr. Elliott wouldn't have any access to what he had left, and so that's an important point. I think that all of the executive summary and everything here is favorable to an approval, and we certainly, I don't know how the prospective zoning for the housing got somehow into that. Nobody's going to build any houses on that 4 acres in the middle of the industrial place out there, and so we would encourage you and appreciate it if you would approve this so that LFW Westridge can proceed with its purchase of this 4 acres from Mr. Elliott, and it will make both of them very happy if they can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any questions for the applicant at this time? I think you have well spoken your case, and so you may be seated. At this time, we're going to ask for those who want to speak in favor of the case. You'll have 10 minutes to speak in favor of this case. I don't really see anyone coming up. All right, anyone want to speak in opposition of the case? Okay, Mr. Crumley, I'm going to ask you to come back up. Maybe one of the board members might have thought of something they wanted to ask you. Whoops, we have a board member that excused himself. I apologize. I didn't realize you had left the room. We're asking Mr. Crumbly if he had, board members, if they had any other questions for Mr. Crumbly. Okay. You may be seated. If we can please call the case.
LFW Westridge LLC of Peachtree Corners, Georgia requests rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to M1 Light Manufacturing for the property located at 738 Ferris Drive in land lot 193 of the 7th District. The property consists of 4.168 plus or minus acres, and the request is for an industrial distribution facility. The property is located in District 2 and was presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Okay. You want to go ahead and recuse yourself?
Board and Mrs. Chairman, as previously stated, I will not vote on this request. I have to abstain.
Okay. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Risher is recusing himself from the vote. So we have a motion for this case?
Yes, Madam Chair. I make a motion to approve case RZ-15-19 as recommended by staff with the 7 conditions listed.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Babb. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by your hand, raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you so very much. Okay, this ends all of our cases. And motion to adjourn if the staff doesn't have anything else for us. Okay.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Okay, that's it. We don't